the Everton family enjoys special bonds. As in all enduring and healthy faiths, the elders share eyewitness accounts of historical events to younger generations. In this series, we'll hear stories of Everton FC in the 1960s, from an Evertonian who's been at the heart of it all. Stories of a decade punctuated by 2 First Division titles and an FA Cup. Dr. David France is a 5th generation Evertonian. Born in Widnes, the now 78-year-old has spent the last 49 years living in North America and has travelled over 2 million miles to attend Everton games and introduce his Everton initiatives. David is the founder and driving force behind the Gwladys Street's Hall of Fame since 1996. He's written 19 Everton books since 1997. There's the Everton Former Players Foundation since 1999, Everton FC Heritage Society since 2008, Everton War Memorials since 2011, and of course, the world-famous Everton Collection. On behalf of the Everton FC Heritage Society, members Lewis Royden and Sarah DeBow visited the Dixie Dean Hotel in Liverpool to talk to another special blue, to provide a season-by-season review from 1959 to 1970. In episode 3, we cover 1962 to 1964, as Everton lift the league trophy for the 6th time.
62-63. Okay, so for me, this is an important one for me as a Beatle fan. We seem to have taken over the world. Merseybeat was just the forefront of everything at this point. So Cuba Missile Crisis too.
Mr. Kennedy said Foreign Minister Gromyko falsely assured him that Russia had put no rockets on Cuba. Photographic proof to the contrary was soon in the president's hands. What kind of rockets? The Moscow May Day parade had featured. So missiles of 1,500 miles range and more were pointing at American cities. As expected, the American embassy in London was the target of 2 factions. The pro-Russians, who are always good for a knock at the Americans, and the ban-the-bomb people. Petitions were delivered protesting against the president's blockade of the approaches to Cuba. The CND members were declaring that nothing short of abolishing nuclear arms could prevent another world war. When they sat down to reinforce the argument, they were removed. Busy time for the police.
The crossover of American and British culture. Can you sort of set the tone with us? The First Division.
We won the title.
Let's go for it. Yeah.
Everything happened. Everything fell into place. We walked the title. We were excellent football inside, skillful, entertaining side, breath of fresh air, always attacking, always on the front foot, star-studded, top crowds. Everywhere we went, we attracted crowds. Tremendous footballing side. During the season, Harry Catterick was the manager. At the beginning of the season, he signed John Morrissey from Liverpool without Bill Shankly knowing. And it's such an underrated player was John. Tremendously skillful. People talk about him being muscular and being hard, but that's not doing justice to him. He was a tremendously skillful footballer, a winger. Uncompromising, I would have to add. But he later on, he was reborn more as a midfielder. And when we talk about the Holy Trinity, really we should talk about them as a quartet. Because John, we played 4-3-3, but when things were like away from home, John would drop back and play like wide left, and Colin would move. Colin Harvey would move more central.
That's interesting, so I've not heard him mentioned in that conversation before, the Holy Trinity.
He was a release valve. He had good skills, tough lad, but he had good skills, and if they got themselves into trouble in defence, just get it out to John.
Yeah,
he'll do it. Top class footballer. I mean, it's one of he may not have looked like a footballer. He was stocky with a barrel chest. He looked like he was from Scotland Road. A tough lad, but he was quality.
Was this the year that Tony Kay signed?
Yeah, that's what happened during the season. That we want to make sure we were going to close this out. We were top of the league, but our teams could do an improvement. So Harry Catterick and John Moores decided to go back to Harry's old club, Sheffield Wednesday, and buy the best one there was, and we broke the British transfer record to bring in Tony Kay, who was left half. Tremendous football. I said before that you talk about key people. Tony was one of those.
No.
He was a key man. He was influential, let's say. Super fit. And he is still today. He must be going on in his late 80s now.
Yeah.
But
I think he's one of our oldest living players at the moment.
He
isn't
might
he?
be.
Must be.
Yeah.
He'd be one of our fittest as well.
Yeah.
You know, Tony Kay didn't miss matches.
Yeah.
You know, he's fit as a fiddle, ruthless as I'm being kind now. Ruthless as a player, but talented. Unfortunately, he had a very sad end to his career. I'll talk to later about.
We'll get onto that.
It was a great loss to the club. It was a great loss to Harry Catt. You know, he'd been his star man at Sheffield Wednesday, and of course, as we know, as we'll talk about, Tony got banned for life, and you know, it was such a loss to Everton.
Yeah.
But I always say, on the good side of that was, if Tony hadn't been banned, we wouldn't have had the Holy Trinity.
Of course.
So we're looking at it, yeah.
So there was a good side to it,
Yeah.
but at the time it was devastating.
Let's talk about that a little bit later on, because of course we'll talk about the players that came in to replace him. You've got a few matches there as well.
I've got Alex Scott before there.
Have you got? Of course, signed Alex Scott. Of course,
we signed Tony Kay in like the Christmas to strengthen the team.
Yeah.
Great. And then Billy Bingham was getting a bit old in the tooth, so we brought in Alex Scott, who'd played at Rangers, Scotland international at Rangers. He was a direct winger. I don't think we have them now. Maybe Kanchelskis could be a comparison. Gareth Bale would be one. Kick the ball ahead.
He was fantastic, Bale. Loved watching
pace. Pure pace, and none of this dribbling and centering. Scott was just pure pace, tremendous. Left people, panting behind him. Great at set pieces. He was a great free kick taker with a great eye for goal. A very, very he augmented what you had in Vernon and Young. With tremendous, combination there.
Yeah. So, well, as I got onto a moment ago, there must have been a few great matches that season. We're winning the league for the first time in a while.
I've got a handful of them here. I hope everyone's still watching this. The first one was the first derby, first league derby, 2-2. Liverpool equalised in the last minute.
To be, didn't it?
I'm still sore about it. It was a sign of things to come. We didn't rate them in the second division team. We got beat by Liverpool. We drew with Liverpool last minute. Roger Hunt. It also was the season we played our first European game. Similar disastrous results. We beat Dunfermline in what was called the Intercities First Cup. Then it became the UEFA Cup, and we beat them. They were managed by Jock Stein, who became famous as the Celtic manager who won the European Cup. Jock Stein, and we won 1-0 at Goodison. Not very convincing, but we got beat 2-0 in Dunfermline, and it was the last minute goal again. We were poor, and we were out. It was our first taste of Europe, and we were out.
I make it 4 minutes remaining, and Dunfermline 1-up. Morrissey to Harris. Cunningham. What a chance for Melrose. Melrose scores. Still a goal. Miller rushing across there to jump on him.
Even so, first taste of Europe, and you only get to go to Scotland.
So it was the first, our first was Scotland, The next one I've got on here was the title decider. We played against Tottenham, who was a challenger. They won the double, as I mentioned before. A great team. But it's famous for the goal, where Roy Vernon centres the ball to Alex Young, and Alex soars above the centre half and the goalkeeper and nods it in. What I like about it, and Alex likes to talk about it, is the anticipation of it. Alex is 5'8", the centre half 6'2". He knows as this ball's coming over, the guy's going to nudge him. So he got it already set in his mind how he's going to head the ball. He's going to run towards the ball, and he's going to lift himself off his left, plant his left foot so that he can jump.
Yeah.
And he jumps like Michael Jordan. He's about a foot higher than this guy. He's in, he sort of floats in the air. He suspends himself in the air, and he just nods it past to where you've never heard anything. Maybe the Bayern Munich game was similar in noise level, but you could hear the noise. They say in Bootle or something like that when he scored this goal, because it was a title decider.
Yeah,
and
again, like the attendance, it must have been packed in there. Yeah,
68,000, 70. And then we went on to close out. We played at West Brom. I went to West Brom, and it was a non-entry of a game, a very suspicious game, people say. We won 4-0. They no substitutes back then. They lost a player after 10 minutes. So we played against 10 men, and they contributed an own goal and a penalty.
Right.
And Alex Young said to me, and Brian Lowe said to me, we just wandered around the pitch, and it was like your dad letting you win at Monopoly. We just went, nobody was tackling you, and it was a very easy game.
They just didn't want to be there.
Like
they were already on the beach, as they say.
It wasn't like a fulfilling victory, for them. Everton were going for the title, and the following week, of course, they won it. We beat Fulham at home, and Roy Vernon got
4-0.
4-1. Roy Vernon got the hat trick, but we didn't get the trophy. They didn't give us the trophy at the end of the game, which is very unusual, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nowadays they make such a big deal out of it, but they just had a lap of honour. I think this is it here.
Oh, have you got
It's the championship trophy, and I'm not sure that there's pictures in here of the goals, etc. But
I've seen some photographs of the goals. Fantastic.
It's St Luke's. You can get these at a bargain.
Brilliant.
It's fantastic.
I have to give that a good read.
Social comment.
Now music, young lady.
Music, 1963 then. Do you want to set the tone for that?
I'll give you my version of it, in that my sister knew everyone in the music business. She was very familiar with people, and I'd been to see the Beatles in Widnes at the town hall, at the Queen's Hall in Widnes, and I'd seen them at the Empire. And this was just after Love Me Do came out, just before Please Please Me, so that's March of 63, something like that, so I'd seen that. But I have heard a whisper that I'm talking to someone with great credibility in the music business.
I wouldn't go that far.
And you have actually played or
I've been
recorded?
in. Yeah, we've experienced. We've worked in Abbey Road. So but I mean that it's another thing. It's like walking into Goodison. It's hollow ground, isn't it? You walk in and you realise that the bar is raised so dramatically.
Well, tell
high.
us a little. But did you cut a record?
We had stuff mastered there. I was brought up on music, similar to you, music and football. My parents were boomers, so I came up through, listening to those stories of 63. My dad's first season was 63, so I twin football and music and the culture of the city in that time with my love of Everton. So it just stems straight into that.
But you're such a modest person, Sarah, that you never tell anybody this, do you? So
no, I'm happy to be here, and it's about Everton, isn't it? So I'm happy for that. It's all about this preservation.
I think it's significant though that we're admirers of the generation and that era, where the influences come from as well, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, our music styles and the things that we're into probably come from that, don't they? It's our parents'
very much
music,
so, yeah.
But it's because it's so good and it captures a freedom of it. And there was people that generation were just so tired and they wanted something different. The parents had. There was rations had gone. Yeah, it just felt different, didn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, you didn't realise that you were at the centre of the seismic change in everything, because you were in Liverpool. You had Everton were champions. Liverpool had come up, and you had the Beatles, who you'd seen down the road. And they'd released their. I think it was Love Me Do or Please Please Me at the music shop down on Widnes Road, the Albert Road in Widnes. It was like you knew them. I know there's lots of people here who knew them, and people in Liverpool who knew them, who lived down across the street, but you were familiar with them. It was I think we all felt a little bit let down when they moved to London, and we had to put up with Jerry and the Pacemakers.
No offence, Jerry.
Yeah, good lad, Jerry.
Yeah.
With the close of cricket, the opening of the soccer season. The sense of expectation was nationwide, even though it does herald the end of summer. We went along to Goodison Park, Liverpool, to join the crowds converging for Everton's opener against Fulham. And crowds is the word. On aggregate, the attendance for the 45 matches which started the season was only a fraction down on last year's figures. Kick-off, and Everton in dark shirts quickly take command. In spite of the absence of Vernon, they were to keep it for the whole game. First goal from a young centre was put into his own goal by Macedo. The reigning champions on the march again, and their supporters following every move. In the second half, Fulham still had a tough time of it. Everton eventually brought off a 3-0 victory. The first of all the Saturdays to come, for all the dads and all the mums, thrills and excitement, whatever your age. The unpredictable kaleidoscope of another soccer season, with every encounter offering dismal failure or jubilant success.
1963-64. The USA was traumatised by the news of the assassination of JFK. Harold Wilson, the Highton MP, became Prime Minister, and the world was subjected to, as we've mentioned, Beatlemania. Of course, the Fab Four weren't the only local stars to top the charts, as we got Jerry and the Pacemakers, the Searchers, Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas. They were all featured on Ready, Steady, Go and Top of the Pops, and also, of course, Doctor Who made his debut that year as well. But at Goodison, I understand there was it was a season of frustration, wasn't it? The clubs declared their focus was on winning the European Cup, but we suffered that early exit to the eventual winners into Milan. And in the first division, we were top of the table in March, but with just 6 games to play, we ended up finishing third, 5 points behind Liverpool.
It's one of these things where you expect the good years to carry on, don't you? You're champions. We were doing really well. We had an exit by Inter Milan in the European Cup, but at home we were the kings. You know, we were quality. We had added, I'll mention a couple of players. We spent a lot of money that year, and we added Sandy Brown. And you were too young to know this, but one of the great chants from the boys' pen was, what's the things we love the most? Sandy Brown and beans on toast.
To bring that back, I think.
I'd love to hear that echo across the Bramley Moor, as it'll be.
One of the last things we should, last song.
Let's bring it out.
At the stadium. We spent a lot of money. Sandy was an athlete. I know that he made a few mistakes, unfortunately, but he was a rugged, versatile guy. He had a tremendous shot. Sandy had this really powerful shot. Another person with a shot that we bought at that time was Fred Pickering, centre forward, burly centre forward. So I think they called him Boomer. He was only one-footed, right-footed, and he was a Harry Catterick centre forward. Harry Catterick was no great fan of Alex Young, but we got rid of Vernon. Vernon had gone. Vernon had fallen out with Catterick, with the clash of personalities. And instead of replacing Vernon with an inside forward, he brought in Fred Pickering and moved Young to inside forward, and it worked. Worked the next season. It worked, but unfortunately, the season we're talking about, it disrupted the team, and I think Fred never really adjusted to the fact that he could score all the goals, and he scored lots and lots of goals for Everton and for England. His record for England is he played 3 games and scored 5 goals, which is tremendous. But nobody talks about him because he's in the shadow of Alex Young, and he still was until he passed away. Was always in the shadow of it. He didn't object to it, but he would have liked a bit of recognition for his contribution. He thought he was overlooked. And also at that time, one of the great Evertonians shows up on the scene. I'd seen him playing in the Central League, which was Colin Harvey.
Wow,
and we all call him the White Pelly, but the players themselves, they call him Snarler, which I think is a great name for a midfielder, isn't it? Snarler. Immaculate skills, Colin. I would say of the 3 of them, Kendall, Harvey and Ball, he was the most talented. He was the most gifted of them. Well, I just mentioned it here. He was industrious. He was fearless, Colin. Gifted passer, crowd favourite. But unfortunately, he was impacted by 2 things. He couldn't shoot for toffee. Although he scored 2 very important goals, but it was a bit like, you remember John Ebro. John was a great industrial, in the mid-90s, great footballer, lovely lad, lovely midfielder. But something happens when they get to the edge of the box, and I don't know what it is, but they don't score. But Colin did score a couple of very important goals, but unfortunately he was impacted by injuries. His style of play was such that he was going to get knocked around a bit. And he had problems with his hip, and then he had a major problem with his eyes, optic problems. Right. But he became a favourite. And another one that came in around that time with Gordon West suffering from his nerves and suffering with a dip in form. We had fancied a young lad called Andy Rankin, who was a lightweight in build. He was no Gordon West in build, but he was acrobatic. We'd never seen anybody like him before. He was a true acrobat. He'd make these, you see some goalkeepers, I won't mention names, but they make the most of saves. Andy Rankin, that was his way. He was just fantastic goalkeeper. He was an understudy for West, but it's one time for maybe 12 months he replaced Gordon, but then Gordon got his own place back.
And you may go on to mention this, but I know Andy Rankin as being the record breaker in the European Cup. The save in the penalty shootout against Borussia Mönchengladbach. The first goalkeeper to save a penalty in Europe.
He's special. And I told you the story. Gordon West comes on the pitch, talks to Andy, gives him advice. And he says to Andy, I think the guy's name was Mueller, the last guy to take it for Borussia Mönchengladbach. And he says to Andy, Gordon's in his tracksuit, he was bossy. He said to Andy, I've seen this guy, I've watched him, I know all about this guy. Go to your left. My right, your left. I'm sure, there was no names on bottles in those days.
The percentages.
So the guy comes up and he smacks the ball to the other side, and Andy's down there and makes this fantastic save. And afterwards, Andy comes up. Gordon goes up to Andy and he said, "Great save, Andy, lad, fantastic." He said, "I'm glad you took no notice of me. Nobody ever does."
And history was made, eh?
History was. It was talking about the European Cup. We went out. We had a goal disallowed against Inter Milan. Roy Vernon scored disallowed for offside. But I remember most about it is back then, to go in the ground was 3 shillings, but for the game they made it 5 shillings. No. I thought that was outrageous, isn't it? We were all waiting to play in the European Cup, and then they put the price in, double the price.
We were in a change kit for that one, weren't we? We played white.
We played in our white to accommodate the fact that Inter Milan black and blue.
Black and blue,
to accommodate them. That's what the etiquette of football was, such that the home team in the cup competition would change. They were a good team. They won it that year, and we get drawn in the preliminary round. We get drawn against the champions. Bad luck. Another game of that importance will be played in the British Championship. We played the champions of Scotland, Glasgow Rangers, and we hammered them in Ibrox. And I remember it well because I was hitchhiking, and it was the first time I never reached my destination. I got on the M6 to Charnock Richard, which I can describe the service station in great detail back then, and I never budged for about 2 hours.
Yeah,
and at the end I'm thinking, I might as well go home. And it's as hard to get south from Charnock Richard as it is to go north. So I never got to the game, but I went to the second game, and it's best remembered for all the bottles that were thrown on the pitch. All the Glasgow fans were in the Bullens Road, and I'd never seen it. It was like a recycling centre. You'd never seen bottles like all these whiskey bottles and beer bottles and everything. They had a good time. We drew 1-1, but we won the. I think it was called the unofficial British Championship. Right. But amongst ourselves, we called it the British Championship. It was. I think at the time we expected, these were side shows, the European Cup. I think we expected to retain the title, but then things happened. We collapsed due to 2 reasons. One was before mentioned Tony Kay. Tony had been found guilty of unfortunate situation, bad decision making when he played for Sheffield Wednesday, and he bet against his own team at Ipswich, and he was very harshly banned for life and imprisoned. And I think we've talked about, so when you think about nowadays,
the comparison to some of the similar crimes now, I picked up on Ivan Toney, who's the obvious recent one, where he's slap on the wrist and was back in for an England call-up the following year.
Scandalous.
I think it was a small fine. And there's other players now that I can't really talk on because the court cases haven't happened, but there's no suggestion of bans, but to even go to prison for it. And we won the game, didn't we? Tony Kay.
He was man of the match.
Man of the match. It's not even like he's thrown it. He
was the man of the match. He along with Peter Swan, who was England's centre half, and a centre forward called Bronco Lane, great name for a centre forward, who was up and coming, great goal scorer. They all got banned, and it destroys them as people. You don't recover from it. It's the only thing that they know. They're good at it. Tony Kay was an outstanding footballer, and I'm talking in the terms here of the Bobby Collinses of the world and the Alan Balls of the world, the people who changed the team. He was Harry Catterick's favourite. He was going to build a team around Tony Kay. So it must have been devastating to Tony, but devastated to Harry Catterick as well. And he was dismissed straight away. The morals of John Moores was such that any stain on the club's reputation, he didn't want anything to do with it.
No messing around there, was there?
He released him straight away. And it was very sad. He was a tremendous footballer. His career would have gone on to great things.
I mean, we could argue that he was, it was a great disappointment for England as well, considering you've got a World Cup coming the following year and was such a great player that's missed out.
Into the England team. He only played one time for England, and it's likely he would have replaced Nobby Stiles. I don't know. We're speculating that. I don't know. Because I mentioned before, we wouldn't have had the Holy Trinity if Tony had been there. He couldn't have played in his position. He could have been modified, of course, to accommodate Colin. But there you go, you're saying Tony Kay, Colin Harvey, what fantastic footballers.
Different style of play, isn't it? Yeah.
But we didn't win the league, and we didn't win the league because we signed Fred Pickering, who unbalanced the team. We brought him in at the end, and I've got it down here. We had 9 games to go. It was the Easter, I remember it well. We were top of the league, and we won only 4 of the final 9 games. And we just let it slip away. And that you could say, I'm not blaming Tony and I'm not blaming Fred Pickering. That's just the way it was. We didn't embrace the challenges that were required at that.
It's clearly unsettled, wasn't it?
As they say, you should never change a winning team.
I was standing by the side of the road, rain falling on my shoes, heading out for the East Coast, Lord knows to pay some dues, getting through.